Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're about to conduct a full forensic deconstruction of a single, highly unusual digital artifact. You know, sometimes the most compelling mysteries aren't locked away in thick dossiers or encrypted servers. No, they're found in the mundane, everyday communications that just sort of accidentally spill out into the open. Today, we're looking at an internet anomaly that is honestly as brief as it is baffling. We're going to put this thing under the microscope and see exactly what kind of secrets we can extract from its pixels. Let's get into it.
Crazy magnet Saunders. Just let that phrase sit with you for a second. It's incredibly specific, a little bit aggressive, and undeniably bizarre. When you hear a phrase like that, you probably picture a chaotic high school group chat, or maybe some strange inside joke between old friends at a noisy bar, right? What you definitely don't picture is a highly formal, institutional environment. And yet, this exact phrase sits dead center in a professional communication chain, completely shattering every expected norm of workplace decorum.
And this perfectly illustrates the massive tonal whiplash we're dealing with today. On one side, we have this hyper-casual, frankly perplexing insult, crazy magnet Saunders. But then look at the overarching context of this communication. It's labeled, in all seriousness, United Nations Justice. The juxtaposition here is just staggering. We are crashing headfirst into this wild collision between high-stakes international administration and what looks like petty, completely unhinged office banter.
Okay, let's just dive right in. What you're seeing here is the entirety of our source material for today's investigation. It's a simple screenshot of a two-message email chain, clocking in at roughly 30 words total. That's it. That is the whole shebang. But within this incredibly tight frame, there is an absolute masterclass in unresolved tension and missing context. We are going to tear these 30 words apart, piece by piece, to figure out exactly how this baffling exchange actually happened.
Section 1. The document's anatomy. Deconstructing the chain.
So before we can even try to decode that bizarre message at the top, we really have to understand the environment it was sent in. Let's take a look at the metadata. What's surprisingly interesting here is the really wide audience for this exchange. This isn't just a direct one-on-one private message that went off the rails. Our primary senders are Ben Swanson and Basil L. Habil. But look at who else is in the virtual room. David Kanja is listed as a direct recipient. And quietly sitting in the CC line, witnessing this whole thing go down, are Maria Elena Munoz and Megan Burton. That means whatever weird dynamic is playing out here, it is playing out in front of a live studio audience of colleagues.
Moving on to the next part. A serious subject line, setting the tone.
Check out the umbrella these 5 folks are gathered under. United Nations Justice. Read that with the gravitas it demands. This is definitely not a thread titled Lunch Orders or Friday Happy Hour. The subject line frames this communication within the scope of literally one of the most significant diplomatic organizations on the planet. It screams policy, legality, and massive international stakes.
Which really makes you wonder, right? What exactly prompts a multi-person email thread with a title that heavy? Are we talking about an internal tribunal here? Some intense discussion on international law? Without the external context or the emails that came before this one, we're basically left guessing at the giant institutional machinery grinding away in the background. But it tells us for sure that the baseline expectation for this thread is utter, absolute professionalism.
Let's look at Phase 3, the pre-dawn promise, at 4:26 a.m.
We're going to start at the chronological beginning of our visible artifact, working our way from the bottom up, and I want you to pay super close attention to the timeline here. This is not some rapid-fire instant messaging chat. Basil sends his initial email in the pre-dawn hours of Wednesday, March 13, 2019, at exactly 4:26 a.m. Then, crickets. There's a vast 6.5-hour waiting period. The sun actually comes up, the workday officially kicks off, and finally at 10:50 a.m., Ben delivers his reply. That time gap is totally crucial because it shows Ben's response wasn't just a typo or some fast, unthinking reflex. He sent this well into the morning.
So let's break down Basil's initiating email. Right off the bat, there's a huge curiosity here. Basil is sending this from a personal Hotmail account, bhabil@hotmail.com. Why on earth is a personal email address being used in a multi-person thread titled United Nations Justice? Already, that rigid boundary between professional and personal is getting a little blurry. Also, you've probably noticed that whoever took this screenshot went way out of their way to mark Basil's text with a distinct yellow highlight. They're telling us this sentence is somehow vital evidence.
And what exactly is that vital, highlighted sentence? Dear Ben, great thanks, will return to you soon. Best, Basil. That's it. It is completely, thoroughly innocuous. It's literally the most standard, polite, boilerplate office communication you could possibly imagine. Basil is essentially just saying, message received, I'll get back to you. It's an email entirely designed to politely pause a conversation, not start a fire.
Which brings us to the morning anomaly at 10:50 a.m.
Now this is where things take a hard left turn, straight into the surreal. Notice that harsh red box added to the image. Whoever captured this artifact wanted to make absolutely certain that your eyes were drawn immediately to this specific reply. The red box frames the anomaly, just practically shouting at us that something has gone terribly, wonderfully wrong in this communication chain.
Let's look at the sender. Ben Swanson is replying from an official UN.org email address. The signature down there notes it was sent via Outlook for iOS, which means Ben probably fired this off from his iPhone or iPad while he was on the move. But the most staggering detail here is the sheer cliff-drop tone shift. We go straight from Basil's ultra-polite, great thanks, to a response that is highly informal, fiercely specific, and honestly, borderline combative.
That's why you are known as Crazy Magnet Saunders to your colleagues. Just think about this for a second. Basil says, I will return to you soon. And Ben's supposedly logical 6 hours later response to that completely normal statement is to say, that's why everyone calls you Crazy Magnet Saunders. It defies all conversational logic. The non sequitur is so massive it almost feels like Ben meant to reply to a completely different email. Except, well, it's sitting right there in the thread.
And that leads us to our final section, the Saunders mystery and its unresolved context. We are basically standing at the edge of a massive contextual black hole right now, and we've got to try and make sense of the void. Here is the absolute most glaring inconsistency in the entire artifact. Ben is directly replying to a man whose email clearly identifies him as Basil L. Hubble. Basil even signs off his email with the name Basil, and yet Ben confidently tells him his reputation among colleagues is Crazy Magnet Saunders.
Which instantly brings us to a fundamental question. Is Basil actually Saunders? Like, is this a pseudonym? Does he have some middle name or a hyphenated surname that we just aren't seeing? Or did Ben Swanson, firing off an email from his iPhone on a random Wednesday morning, completely misidentify the person he was talking to in front of 3 other coworkers?
Or, is Saunders just a hyper-specific inside joke? Is this some workplace nickname that somehow completely breached the containment of the water cooler and made its way onto an official thread concerning United Nations justice? If you are a crazy magnet, it usually implies you attract chaotic or unhinged situations. Is Basil known for dealing with difficult people? We simply don't know. But the fact that Ben claims this is how he is known to his colleagues implies there is deep, established lore here that we are only getting a 1-second glimpse of.
And then, we really have to question the motive of the archivist, the person who actually took this screenshot. Why did they feel the need to highlight "will return to you soon" in yellow while boxing the insult in red? Does Basil's promise to return soon somehow trigger the label of crazy magnet? Does the simple fact that he promised to follow up make him crazy? The highlights strongly suggest a direct cause and effect that remains entirely invisible to anyone outside this specific email chain.
So look, the crucial takeaway here is this. What we have is just a beautifully chaotic piece of internet ephemera. In just 2 short messages, we've got high-level international bureaucracy, personal Hotmail accounts, random 6-hour delays, mobile typos, bizarre nicknames, and an entire audience of silent, copied observers. It just perfectly captures how that polished veneer of professional life can occasionally slip, revealing the weird, messy human dynamics operating right underneath the surface. Which kind of leaves us right back where we started, staring at this digital artifact. We've deconstructed the timeline, the cast of characters, and the massive tonal whiplash. But the core secret, that remains locked away on those servers. We just have to walk away asking, what in the world is the true story behind United Nations justice? And who, really, is Crazy Magnet Saunders? That is all for today's Explainer. Keep analyzing, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.